In the previous video, we will talk about, for example, inheritance. Now we are in the second part of the inheritance. We said that we create a student class, and in student class as a parameter we pass the parent class. So that's how we can inherit or use inheritance in Python. And we use the pass statement because there is no other method or properties for the class. So that's why we use the class keyword. And then we say, for example, we create an object of student in Mike and Olsen, because this is not, but we have to use the inheritance. That's why we can use the first and last name attribute, and then x dot print name. Also I want to use the print name method of functionality, so Mike Olsen will be printed. Why? Because we used inheritance in that class. At the init function we can also, for example, the init functionality, we can also, so far we have created a child class that inherit the properties from its parent. We also want to init to the child class instead of pass keyword. So how we can do that? For example, in the class student, instead of pass, I pass define / init, because I want to, for example, that to the and then we have first it be self, then f name, then l name, and then we say, for example, add properties. We can also, for example, properties in here, that, for example, self dot age is that, self dot name is that. We can, for example, pass it like this. When you add the init, the child class will no longer inherit the init. Now the child will not inherit the from parent inherit, because it is called as a function override method. The function override the init of the parent init function to keep the inheritance of the private at a call to the parent init first. So first, if, for example, the by default if we add for example init in the child class, then this init or the child init will override the parent init. But if we want, for example, not, first we have to do what? We have to call the parent init. How we can, for example, call the parent event init? We can call the parent init like this. First call whatever we say the name is dot, then / init we call it, and then we say, for example, self f name l name. Now we do not override it and we call it like here. We can, for example, use the super functionality. Python also has a super functional that will make the child class inherit all methods and properties from its parent class. So we can, for example, use the super functionality, or we can call, for example, init in here. For example, if we call a super functionality, we can also, for example, copy it. We can use super. Also after that we use, for example, dot keyword / then we say, for example, init. I use init. Then there is no need for we say, for example, self. So we can use, for example, a super, or we can use, by using super you do not have to use the name of the parent element, it will automatically inherit method. There is no need, for example, for parent element like in the previous example when we use person.init. No, just use super. Super mean super class. Add properties. We can also add a property called, for example, graduation year in student to the class. There we say, for example, we can add another properties as well to that. So how we can do it? There is self method, for example, self dot graduation year, for example, is equal to 2020. For example, we can child class will have all the properties and methods of parent class, but it can also have, for example, new one. For example, add a year property and pass the correct year when, for example, creating an object. So now when we create this object, x is equal to student Mike Olsen, now we say, for example, 2000 and, for example, 2000, for example, whatever self dot graduation year is equal to whatever year that we pass. And in here, for example, define init, I pass here as well. So for example, 2019, I passed as a 2019 when creating it. So now year will also be printed like here. X is equal to student that. The print name functionality I don't think should be called in here. X dot graduation year, for example, x dot graduation year. For example, x dot graduation